Level 1, the daughter. You are born in a village in rural Afghanistan, and before you take your first breath, your worth has already been decided by your gender. If you had been a boy, there would be gunfire in the air and sweets passed around the room. Instead, there is quiet. Your father forces a smile. Your mother, exhausted from labor, already knows what the neighbors will whisper. A girl again. By 5, you understand your place before anyone explains it. You watch your brothers run outside while you stay close to the compound walls. You carry water in jugs too heavy for your arms. You learn to bake flatbread over an open fire before you learn a single letter. Some girls in the cities are still allowed classrooms at this age. You were born somewhere the nearest school for girls is an hour's walk past checkpoints and men who stare too long. Level 2, the student. At 7, if you're lucky, you start attending a small school run out of a mosque courtyard. You memorize verses. You learn basic arithmetic from a woman who herself had to fight to be allowed to teach. You don't know yet that this small mercy, a girl learning to read, can be erased overnight by a decision made hundreds of miles away in a government building you will never see. Level 3, the property. At 10, your body starts changing, and so does the way people look at you. Your mother pulls you aside one evening and tells you to start covering your hair in public. Men who used to greet you by name now look past you, like you've already become something that belongs to someone else. Your freedom to run in the street quietly ends. Nobody announces it. It just happens, like a door closing without a sound. At 12, a man in his 30s visits your father. You're sent to bring tea, then told to leave the room. You don't fully understand the conversation, but you notice your father won't meet your eyes for the rest of the night. Roughly a third of Afghan girls are married before 18, and in poorer rural provinces, the age often drops much lower. Your family owes a debt. A daughter can settle it. Level 4, the wife. At 14, you are married. There is no courtship. Nothing like the stories the older women whisper about from decades past. You move into your husband's family's home. You become responsible for his mother's laundry, his sister's meals, his comfort, before you've finished growing yourself. Under both Afghan and international law, this counts as a child marriage. Out here, far from any courthouse, the law is just a word in a language nobody around you speaks. At 16, you give birth for the first time. There's no hospital, only a midwife who has delivered half the village with her bare hands. You survive. Not every girl does. Afghanistan has one of the highest maternal mortality rates on Earth. And out here, far from real medical care, childbirth is one of the most dangerous things you will ever face. Before we go further, if this kind of immersive human storytelling pulls you in, hit subscribe and turn on notifications, because this channel puts you inside lives you'll never live yourself. And there's a lot more waiting for you. Level 5, the restricted. At 20, your world has narrowed to the size of a compound wall. You need a mahram, a male relative, just to travel beyond your neighborhood. This isn't new, but since the Taliban retook control of the country in August 2021, the restrictions have hardened into official policy. Girls are barred from secondary school. Universities are closed to women entirely. You watch younger cousins finish 6th grade and simply stop, their education ending exactly where the law says it must. At 22, you try to work. Before 2021, you might have found something at a clinic, a tailoring shop, a government office. Now, most of those doors are shut. Women are banned from most paid employment outside the home, banned from most NGO work, banned even from many parks and gyms. Your husband says his income is enough. But you remember the taste of your own earned money, however small, and how it felt like a kind of dignity nobody could argue with. Level 6, the silenced. At 25, a new decree announces that women must not speak loudly enough to be heard by men outside their homes. Another rule follows soon after, a full veil covering your face whenever you leave the house, no exceptions. You've learned by now that new restrictions arrive without warning, read out on the radio or announced at the mosque, and there is no vote, no appeal, no office you can walk into to object. At 28, your own daughter turns 7, the same age you were when you first held a pencil. She asks what school is like. You realize you don't have an honest answer that won't break her heart because the classroom she'll never enter closed before she was even old enough to understand what she lost. Level 7, the invisible. And at 30, you fall seriously ill. Under current rules, a male doctor cannot examine you without a male relative present, and female doctors have become rare, since so many trained professionals fled the country or were pushed out of their jobs. You wait 3 extra days for the right combination of people to be available. In that waiting, an infection spreads that could have been treated in an afternoon. At 35, your husband dies. In many rural communities, a widow without grown sons to act as her guardian becomes almost invisible under the system, unable to move freely, unable to legally support herself, dependent entirely on the mercy of in laws who may or may not want the extra mouth to feed. Level 8, the witness. At 40, you look through old photographs you've kept hidden. Women in Kabul in the 1970s wearing skirts, attending university, working as judges and pilots and engineers. You realize your country's story hasn't moved in a straight line. It has swung like a pendulum between openness and control, war after war, government after government. And you were simply born during one of its darkest swings. At 50, you are a grandmother. Your granddaughter is 7, the same age you were, the same age your daughter was. She asks about school. History has not finished repeating itself. Somewhere in another country, women your age are fighting in courtrooms and parliaments for rights you were never given the chance to hold. And somewhere in yours, a girl is being born tonight, her whole future still being decided by men who have never once asked for her opinion. Level 9, the survivor. You have lived a life measured not in choices you made, but in restrictions you endured. And the quiet, aching truth is that simply surviving in this place has had to be enough.